Welcome back, Trinidad and Tobago. Again, the first episode of Breakthrough. It's been going really well. Thank you so much, Sean, for joining me for this.
Well, it was fun. It is fun. It is fun.
It is. And our next guest joining us this morning is the lovely, the talented, the amazing LeAndra. Good morning.
Good morning, Mark Anthony. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Now, I'm going to ask that again because, listen, she just finished an entire weekend. She performed in Spectacular Broadway, Brian McFarlane's production. And maybe a week before that or 2 weeks before that, she had her own show. It was Friday, Saturday, and Sunday as well. Saturday and Sunday in Stolmeyer's Castle. Yes. I went it. It was wonderful. Right? I already put my review up and you saw that. But this is a talent that has been working. Right? She's been working. She's really been putting in. And I particularly, when I went to the McFarlane show last night, I particularly enjoyed your performances. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
So we want to put the spotlight on you a little bit. All right? So you want to talk about LeAndra. Who is LeAndra? What does she do? What does she stand for? What does she eat? All of those things.
Wow.
Okay, LeAndra. All right, I say I'm best known as a vocalist. I have been singing since I was 9 years old. So that's like 20 plus years of singing. And I did have the opportunity to do my degree at the University of Trinidad and Tobago, UTT. Right. And since then, I've just been performing and had some travel opportunities and produced my own shows and been part of some really amazing projects. So,
speaking of your own shows, so it's always a curious transition from being a performer when someone asks you to perform in this for me, but then all of a sudden we saw LeAndra live, strings and voice.
I have to interject here. So usually when you are one of the performers, you could complain about, oh, this was wrong and they're doing this wrong. Now you're in charge. Now you're the person who everyone is complaining about. What was that like?
Wow, I tried my best to make things as comfortable as possible, like, try to respect everyone's time in the rehearsal process and that kind of thing. That's the things I try to be mindful of. Because the things I don't, there's like peeves of mine when I work on other projects and, get them their music at a reasonable time. I could be sometimes a bit bad with that, but they're professionals and they usually pull it off really, really well. Yes. So I hope that they don't think I'm a horrible person to work with.
Now, speaking of that cast, you had a lovely cast. You had Wasia Ward on cello. You had Nariba on viola. You had Stefan Roach on guitar, and you had your good friend Uliana Sapoval from Ukraine. And we'll see a little bit of both of your work in a moment. But just putting all of that together, and I must say, the duet with you and your sister, that For Good from Wicked, that was an amazing moment. And the names that I've called, they're very professional and they're very good at what they do. So when things do sort of go haywire, you need those professionals to sort of be able to still do their work, be able to still get the job done, and be able to adjust if things happen. But tell us about the choice of those people. Why? I mean, they're great people. Why them?
Well, they said it there. Yeah, they're great people, great musicians. Also, the concept of the show, Strings and Voice, it was very fitting to have them there. Yes. I've had the pleasure of working with them in previous projects. I've worked with Stefan on his projects, and we've done some gigs together. And I actually met Uliana when I spent some time working on a cruise ship.
Okay.
And I thought she was so amazing. Yeah. And I was like, if I'm ever doing you have to come to Trinidad and perform.
Yes.
And things just worked out well enough with her contracts ending and everything for her to be here in time for the show. And she's still here. She's actually leaving at the end of this week.
Okay.
So it was really, really a pleasure to have her be part of that show.
That's great. Yes. So sometimes it's good that you got her in that sweet spot, because once you're contracted as a musician anywhere in any orchestra, your duty is there first.
Yes.
Right? So that's sort of interesting, and I did forget to mention your lovely pianist.
Unmi Choi.
Umi Choi,
Yes,
she is
amazing.
great.
Incredible.
She's great. She's
Incredible.
amazing. She's also she's a piano tutor at University of Trinidad and Tobago for the Bachelor of Fine Arts. So your career, it's been from Christmas Joy to Tobago Jazz Experience and other jazz festivals. North Coast Jazz.
Jazz. Can't forget.
Shameless plug. Indirectly association.
Strings and voice, all of these different performances, all of this different repertoire, because you do musical theater, but the fact that you're able, North Coast Jazz, Tobago Jazz Experience, you're able to do all of these contemporary things. And working on a cruise ship, what are one of your most memorable, I wouldn't say favorite, but most memorable experience as a performer in all of those different gigs and stuff like that? Can you choose?
Oh my. I must say there is something about doing your own shows. I've had amazing opportunities working with Brian McFarlane, like being part of that production. These are things I really enjoy. And in terms of doing like the jazz and more contemporary things, those are things that I also enjoy as well. And I'd like to explore my curiosity with music. So some people don't necessarily like that I do that, but I think that's okay. But I do think there's something very special about being able to do my own and have my name be associated with that particular project. I will say Strings and Voice was a very special one for me.
Was it your first? Your first production?
Well, I've done shows like concerts and stuff in the past, but I've never really done anything like this. And the location, it was at Stallmeyer's Castle. It was very special. Yes. And the cast of people I got to work with made it. It was just a very special show.
One thing I really liked, and where we miss a lot, it created a very nice, warm, intimate space.
Yes.
And I really like that.
Well, I wanted to ask because, as you said, your curiosity with music, and I hope that it's ever growing, I guess you could say, because you yourself seem to be so refined already, and we'll see that in the clip that we have of you. But also, I remember I interviewed you before North Coast Jazz. I never necessarily had a chance to speak to you in depth after North Coast Jazz about it. It was one of the most beautiful local performances that stands up internationally, I would say. The thing I was disappointed about it was that most of the patrons didn't reach yet and missed out on it. And whenever I hear you perform, I'm just always I'm struck by the subtleties of some of your choices, even in your rendition that we have of you. And do you continue trying to keep finding new small ways to improve? Because a lot of people, I think at some point they get complacent. They're like, I'm good. I don't need to improve. I need to worry about the business side or this side. But what about the artist side? Do you continue to strive for your own performances, for your own skills, to continue to improve them?
Definitely. Absolutely. I think as performers, especially as vocalists, the voice is such an intricate little instrument. It's constantly changing. So I'm always aiming to do my best in anything that I'm doing. So yes, if there are things that I'm interested in, I would study it for a little bit. If there's a particular artist that I find interest in, I would study them and see what are some of the little things that they would do that I liked, and I might take a little bit of it or whatever. So my goal is always just to be my best and to do my best.
Yes, and it's a good point that you brought up, because you always have to be working on your craft. You always have to be practicing, and you get better with practice. Especially, and I tell that to students at the tertiary level who are studying the arts. School. I mean, when you're studying a degree like that, that school takes up a lot of your time, right? So you don't always get a lot of the opportunities outside. But even when you graduate, you have to keep at it, because that's the only way you're gonna get better. Yes. That's the only way you're gonna really say something as an artist, and really hone your craft, and really hone your craft.
As vocalists, we're athletes. Yes. We need to think of it that way. It's a muscle, and we have to work that muscle and keep it in good shape and good condition. And then goes beyond just practice. how you take care of yourself, getting enough rest, and all these things you need to take into account.
It's the one instrument that is susceptible, that changes that changes more frequently. It's more susceptible because there's biology, there's genetics, there's all of those things. As you get older, it starts to change, and it's not just a matter of it degrading in a sense, but it's just a matter of, okay, so how do I adjust my technique? How do I use this voice that I now have? I didn't have the nice, young, sweet, the very much solo music festival voice that I had when I was younger, but then as you get older, it matures a little bit, right? And so with that being said, speaking of this wonderful talent and this voice, we have a clip of LeAndra with her friend Uliana Sapoval on guitar performing a cover of Dust in the Wind. Special thanks to the Academy of Performing Arts for allowing us to record here. This is Dust in the Wind cover by LeAndra. Take a look.